Hello, everybody, and welcome to Free UFC Bet Picks. Thanks for tuning into our show today. We are here breaking down UFC Vegas 16, Hermansson versus Vettori. These are our early predictions here after watching tons of tape. We will be doing our post-weigh-in video on Friday like normal with our final bets, parlays, daily fantasy advice, all the good stuff that you need. So let's get into our next fight here. It is a featherweight bout between Damon Jackson and Ilia Topuria. Topuria undefeated with 9 wins, but Jackson has a significant height and reach advantage here, 4 inches on each one. And he is the underdog in this fight at plus 176. Topuria the favorite at minus 220. Both great submission artists here. Should be a really fun fight to watch. What are you thinking about this one?
Really exciting fight. You know, Topuria's got a ton of hype behind him. We were excited to see him against Youssef Zalal in his debut, and it was a good fight. He ended up winning. It's a little interesting. So, like, Tapology has Topuria at 5'5". I think he's taller than that. In some of the tape study, people have him at 5'7". There was one fight where they had him at 180 centimeters, which is 5'9". I don't think he's 5'9", but I think he's closer to 5'7". And I recall that the height edge that Youssef Zalal was supposed to have wasn't quite as pronounced as I was expecting. So I think he's a little taller than folks think. You know, he's we know, you know, he's kind of a submission master. He's got great jiu-jitsu. He rips hooks to the body and, you know, throws kind of wild looping punches to close the distance. When it does hit the mat, he takes the back very quickly. He's just great in the scrambles, great transitions, and great grappling. And he's a big time finisher. He loves going north-south and looking for like an anaconda choke. So in that fight against Youssef Zalal, he was coming in on 8 days short notice, situation. He, you know, the path to victory, folks thought was for him to hold Youssef up against the cage, take him down. It's just a question of like, could he catch him? You know, Youssef's got great footwork. And that's how it started playing out. You know, Topuria was kind of chasing him around, throwing heavy hooks. Zalal was dancing around the edge. When Zalal did go for a takedown, he looked extremely guillotinable to me. He had his head right in the armpit, and you know, we'll get to it, but Damon Jackson loves those guillotines, almost too much, almost to a fault. You know, but it was a good, you know, good job by him. He was wrestling around the fence. He finally gets a Greco-Roman throw, kind of like a suplex type of throw. You know, Ilia gives up the back control for side control. You know, he's always transitioning around, always looking for the submission. Even when he has a dominant position, he likes those anacondas and arm triangles, so he'll move to side control quite, you know, confidently. In the second round, Zalal was actually going for a takedown, and I think it just gassed him big time because Zalal looked pretty good defending the takedown and fighting on the ground in round 1, but round 2 was just strange. Zalal was going for a takedown, really fighting for a long time, and he looked different after that. You know, Ilia was just pressing forward with heavy bombs, well-timed level changes, and, you know, Zalal just really had nothing for him. But still, in the third round, Zalal got a deep, you know, Kimura attempt that I think a better, you know, jiu-jitsu player might have had a chance of finishing. So Topuria showed some weaknesses in that win. You know, he was an underdog against a good fighter on 8 days' notice. Like, you know, not to be too critical, right? But before that, his last fight before he came in the UFC was against Steven Gonsalves. He was 6-2. You know, he's a good fighter. You know, that was his first knockout win. And, you know, he was coming in against Zalal. Folks were like, oh, is he going to fall in love with that punch? You know, he needs to stick to his ground game, right? So it's, you know, it was a good performance by him. You know, Steven dropped him, though, with a head kick and a punch. Like, the head kick had him phased, and then a nice straight punch dropped him. But Ilia popped right back up and kind of used that chaos and used that scramble to get a takedown. And he was, you know, immediately looking for the anaconda choke. Ilia got his wrist controlled a surprising amount, I thought, by, you know, Steven when Steven was on the bottom. And I think a good jiu-jitsu player could have, you know, thrown up a triangle in that situation. And, you know, Steven was even looking for a Kimura there, you know. So Topuria, I think, is submittable. You know, people call him like baby Damian Maia, and I think it's a little bit overstated. I'm not as high on Topuria as a lot of folks are. I mean, he's solid, he's thick, he's strong, he's well-rounded, but he's not just like a lights-out submission wizard. like folks think. Gonçalves ended up just being kind of gassed once they got back to the feet. Ilya was stalking forward and just one heavy right overhand landed. No follow-up needed. It just completely melted Steven. A really powerful punch. Before that, he gets a round 1 submission. It was actually a mounted armbar. Tapology just says submission. We're probably the only people that actually watch that fight and know that it was a mounted armbar. But it was against Luis Gomez, again, who Tapology says he was 0-0. No, he's 26-6 when that fight happened. So you'll hear people saying, "Oh, he fought some guy in his MMA debut." No, it was his 33rd MMA fight actually. He throws heavy bombs, he closes the distance, he gets a double leg, and he goes for the mounted triangle. It's kind of like he's going for the mounted triangle, but then it was actually the armbar that Gomez tapped to. Before that, Brian Bouland, who was 7-1. That's where they had Topuria listed at 5-7 in that fight. It was a first one anaconda choke. He loves those. So enough about him. We know Topuria, what he's good at. The thing is, Damon Jackson is good at all those things too. He's bigger, like you said, got the reach for sure, and he's got good striking. So people think Damon Jackson is just a submission master, but he's got really good striking. Mm-hmm. So in his first UFC fight against Mirsad Bektic, Bektic had so much hype on him back in the day. He was like a minus 700 favorite back in the day. But so Bektic has like a ton of hype, but he's kind of catching Bektic towards the end of his career here. But Bektic was looking good, and so yes, Damon Jackson was on short notice, but he knew that he was going to be getting a fight. It was like a couple weeks in a row where the UFC kept telling him, "All right, hey, you're going to come in soon." So he was training really hard. He was ready for weeks. So the Damon Jackson on short notice thing is a little bit inaccurate, just so you guys know. But, good fight against Mirsad Bektic, a stud. The story of the fight here, Damon Jackson keeps going for guillotine. His corner's begging him to stop. Bektic keeps taking him down, and every time Damon Jackson keeps going for the guillotine. In the third round, he does it again, and his corner's yelling at him to either finish it or get up. Let go of it, let go of it, let go of it. It was in tight. He ends up getting on top for the first time. Every other time, he was just staying on his back. And then, Bektic would get out and start ground and pounding him. But in the third round, Bektic was tired, and Damon Jackson finished this, guillotine. It was just kind of a funny thing because his coaches were begging him to stop trying it, and that's what got it for him. Before that, before coming in the UFC, he gets a round 1 rear naked choke against Mauro Chalet. That was in the headliner. Chalet was throwing heavy bombs. Damon ducks under them real nicely. Technical punches, high kick, drop Chalet. It was just great striking performance, in the earlier moments there for Jackson. Chalet pops back up. But from that point on, you could tell Damon just had the big time striking edge. Chalet can't reach him at all. He's swinging it air. Damon, is just doing a nice job keeping the distance, using his reach, and then he drops him with hands again. He follows him to the ground, a little bit of ground and pound, takes his back, gets the body triangle, which I love, gets the rear naked choke. And it was actually like a chin. It was on the chin. It was just like a not a neck crank. It was just like a pressure. It was just a pressure submission. Chalet actually lifts his chin up to let the choke in to take that pressure off his jaw because his jaw was just about to bust. So great job by Damon Jackson. Just absolutely styled on him, drops him twice, follows him to the ground, takes his back, body triangle, and chokes him out. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Before that, though, he gets 10-second flying knee by Movlid Kabuliev, who's 13-0, absolute stud, Dagestani gangster. So you can't really talk too much crap there. But it was bad because Movlid is smaller, just like Topuria is going to be smaller. And Damon Jackson it was like 10 seconds in. Damon throws one high kick, it missed. Then he's stalking Movlid down, and he's ducking down to try to get a low center of gravity to try to get on his level. And Movlid threw one strike in the fight, the flying knee. He didn't even throw a single jab. I'm not kidding. He didn't paw. He didn't throw out a lazy leg kick. He literally just evaded the front teep from Damon and then threw the flying knee because Damon Jackson was ducking down so much. So just a great job by Movlid, but that guy's a future, potentially UFC champion. Movlid's got a great future. Before that, round 2 KO punch against Nate Jennerman. Jennerman's 12-3. Damon landed a nice couple jab overhand combos. He just over and over again, just a 1-4 type of combo. He closed the distance, grabs a plum, And Nate gets out of it, but he's against the cage. And Damon takes him down, just great all around pressure game, winning the striking, gets him against the cage, takes him down, just great fight IQ. Round 2, you kind of could tell that Nate Jenneman didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't want to wrestle with Damon, didn't want to strike with him. He's a little bit mesmerized, and Damon comes in and just throws more nice jab overhand combos, and one of them puts him out cold. So great job by Damon Jackson. It's just another example of how his striking is a lot better than people give him credit for. I think Damon Jackson has an absolute chance to win here. Topuria, I've said it, he's a little bit chokeable. He's Kimura-able. He's a fine striker, but he leaves his head up a little bit, and he got that knockout in his last fight before coming in the UFC. But I don't think there's a whole lot you could take away from that. I think this fight should be a pick'em. Damon Jackson's got a lot of the ingredients that we talk about for an upset. He's bigger. He's got good grappling. I won't say he's got better grappling necessarily, but he's got very good grappling. He's got good cardio. He's shown it multiple times. And, like in the Mirsad Bektic fight would be a good example. And I think Damon Jackson's a super live dog. I've actually got Damon Jackson in a couple of parlays, just like tiny, cheap parlays where, it's him and 4 favorites to really, crazily juice the odds. But I don't have a single bet on Topuria. I'll tell you that. I don't think Topuria is safe. I think this should be an absolute pick'em. I actually really like Damon Jackson by knockout at plus 500 or so. Damon hasn't struggled with anybody's ground game since he fought Yancy Medeiros in 2014. I don't think Topuria is going to outclass Damon Jackson on the ground, period. If it's striking, Damon Jackson 200% has the edge. Mm-hmm. I don't know how this fight's so wide.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. And DraftKings, we've got Jackson at 7,200 and Topuria at 9,000.
Yeah, people think Topuria is just like gonna submit everyone he comes across.
Yeah.
I think that's great value at 7,200 for Damon Jackson, and I even think if Topuria wins, it could be by decision. Like, he might be able to out-wrestle Damon Jackson. We talked about how Damon Jackson falls in love with the guillotine a little bit, and he's willing to land on his back. If Topuria goes in there and goes for takedowns, I hope Damon Jackson actually gets a wide base and gets digs for underhooks and fights his way out and stays on his feet. That's what he needs to do. Yeah. If Damon Jackson just keeps going, accepting the guillotine, Topuria will flip around him to north-south, and all of a sudden he's going to be fishing for an anaconda on you. So I hope Jackson keeps it standing. He should style on him if he does. I don't think Topuria is going to submit him, so I'd absolutely pass on Topuria. And I think Jackson's a pretty good play.
Yeah. All right. I think that is, excuse me, I think that's a wrap on Topuria versus Jackson. Anything else you want to add there?
Nope. Appreciate y'all. Don't let someone waste 15 minutes of your time scrolling through best fight odds and scrolling through Tapology, looking at these fights for the first time. They have no idea who any of these previous opponents are. They have no idea how to pronounce these guys' names because they've never watched any tape. If you watch one of these fights, you're going to hear these fighters' names like 20 times.
Yeah.
So if they don't know how these fights actually ended and they're just saying, it says a submission on Tapology, turn the channel.
Yeah, you can just look that up on Tapology yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, so yeah, make sure you tune into our post-weigh-in video coming on this Friday. Very important information in there. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and we hope to see you next time.